Hello and welcome. My name is Scott Suskovic. I'm pastor at Christ Lutheran Church, and welcome to this podcast that we call Deeper Dive, in which we take a look at the previous Sunday's sermon and go at a deeper level for a great conversation. We're glad you're here.
Hey, I'm Pastor Ryan, and this is
Pastor Adrian.
And we are gonna dive deeper.
Yeah, deep diving.
We've been doing this for a while.
Deeper dive.
We're diving deeper into this sermon that we just heard you preach. The start of our sermon series.
Yeah,
Fear
it's
not.
the second week. Yeah, fear not.
Holy.
That's right. It's Advent. It's
My
busy.
ducks are flying around. None of them are in a row.
Well, at least they're not cats. This is an aside, but honestly, this is how our thoughts can be sometimes.
Okay.
That I went Christmas caroling a few years ago, and we're going to this country road, this house way in the country, and I learned the power and meaning of herding cats. There was a whole bunch of kittens in the road, and they wouldn't go anywhere, and they just went everywhere, and I had to get them out and shoo them places, and they still wouldn't
herding
listen. Literally herding cats. It's a real thing. So this is what we'll do with some of our thoughts this season, as they're going here and there and everywhere. It's
You
like,
know, thank you. I'll take that grace. Okay, so let's get into your sermon. So we kicked it off with fear, and doubt was the kind of fear, right?
And fear of doubt, which is interesting.
Yeah.
That we fear doubt itself.
Oh, say more about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think when it was about doubt, that we have uncertainties and questions, we don't have all the answers, but part of the sermon was to address that we have an actual fear, phobia, maybe, of going to those places that are unknown.
Oh, okay.
Because one of bad experiences, someone shames you for it, or tells you that's inappropriate, that's not right, you should know more, you should know better.
Yeah.
And then part of it, I think, is the uncertainty we feel that it's nice when we have tidier boxes for our faith.
Oh, we like that. That makes me feel
Yeah.
comfortable. Doubt is uncomfortable because I don't know.
Right. Yeah. I mean, one thing that came out in our conversations and preparing for this, and I didn't address this in my sermon, Pastor Ryan, but one thing I appreciate that someone said is that, we can doubt and be uncertain for a long time and a lot, but there's also a line. What do you think about that?
Tell me more. So you think you can doubt, but then there's a line of what? There's a line that you couldn't cross or a line that you shouldn't cross?
There's a line that you've reached, and you draw the line yourself to say, maybe this is going beyond trust and going into hurtful doubt. Is there
Hurtful
productive
doubt.
doubt and
Ooh.
helpful doubt that's to a line, but then it becomes destructive.
Oh.
I feel like there's a lot of truth in that there is a line that you have to draw.
There, and by that you mean that if you don't draw the line, then the doubt, pulls you down. It starts becoming destructive.
It can become nihilism. It can become, some version of some philosophy that's distorted that at the end of the day is not faithful and it's drawn you away.
That is so fabulous. So, that is, by the way, who I am. I am an absurdist, which is a step away from nihilism. And I got there because I was a nihilist. And I read, and anybody who's listening to this, maybe you need to get into this. Go read Kierkegaard. He's a great thinker, Lutheran nonetheless, of that exact thought, that there is this kind of, you can know nothing, so nothing can be known, so stop trying to know anything. Right? And that's the nihilist point of view, which is that you can't have any solid anything, so then there's nothing. So then nothing is everything. And if everything is nothing,
Then what is life?
then there's nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah, all around, right?
Yeah.
And
wow.
so Kierkegaard and this gets back to your sermon, he said, well, you have to do, and this famous line that we all know, we just don't know where it comes from, you have to have a leap of faith. Right? That at some point you have to say, well, I don't know everything, but I'm going to put my eggs in this basket, this faithful basket. The alternative is Camus, who said, just make it up.
Yeah, and I like it also better than Pascal's wager, which was you can also
You're triggering
say,
me all over the place.
Does
Come
your
on.
philosophy feel good?
Yeah.
Who he said, you can. Okay, and you can tell me if this is right, but you have this kind of the two baskets, kind of, or this belief or not belief. And if you say, okay, what do you lose if you say you believe and it's not true?
Right.
What do you lose if you don't believe and it is true?
Right. If you believe and it's not true, okay, you had a mediocre life, and maybe you didn't go to that time in Vegas and do all the things that your mama told you shouldn't do. Well, but what if the other side is, what if you don't believe there is a God,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Then that's the big loss.
Yeah.
So, but here's the best part about that wager, right? The wager is real simple, right? Believe or don't believe, act or don't act accordingly, as if there's a God. That's the whole point was he's a big gambler, this guy, Pascal Blaise. And his buddies were all gamblers. And they all lived their life through these kinds of lenses of what to do and what not to do.
Fascinating.
And so what he was doing was he was shaming them.
Really?
He was shaming them because he said, look, you know the odds. You can see the layout. And if this were a card game, the bet would be obvious. And yet in your life, you're not living that way.
I had no idea about that.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that's fascinating.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
getting back to Kierkegaard and his leap of faith,
Yeah.
that was one of the places you went when you brought in Hebrews, and we talked about faith. And well, that has something to do with doubt, right? It is kind of the antithesis. Is that right? Can we say that it's the antithesis?
We think
of
it
doubt?
is.
Yeah.
I think my hope was to say, yeah, we often think it is the antithesis, and that's why we get hurt so many times in expressing our doubts. But I ultimately made the movement in the sermon to say that it's a companion, that it's part of it.
That doubt is a companion?
Yeah, and thinking about it more, and one person's perspective I really appreciate is that, so doubt is not the opposite of faith.
Okay.
Isolation would be the opposite of faith.
Oh, we're just, talk about deeper dive. That is, we are into the deepest end. Yeah, isolation is the opposite of faith. Man, isn't that true? Isn't that why Jesus left the 99?
Yeah, wow.
Right? Because if we're all by ourselves, then what do we have except for all we know?
Yeah.
And if all you know is all you have, then you'll never come to a place that's beyond you. Because the only thing you can give is what is you.
Yeah. Wow. That's incredible. Yeah. And I really think, I love that, thinking about the Good Shepherd, seeking us because of the danger of being a lone wolf, for not having the sheep parallel.
And
the
he does,
lost
right?
sheep.
Yeah, he prowls
Yeah.
around like a roaring lion,
Yeah.
seeking who to devour. And who do you devour? The lost one, the one that
Yeah.
doesn't have the community, the one that isn't protected, and the one that is going to believe. And here it is, right? The believe the lies. That's where my mind goes, right?
Yeah.
We believe the lies, and that's the doubt. Oh, God couldn't possibly.
Yeah. Well, I wonder what questions are stirring in people's hearts this season.
Oh, yeah.
Have
That
you-
would be fun to know. I
That
don't know.
would be curious. And some of us may not even bring those questions up because we're like, you know what? I'm not gonna deal with that right now.
You know, that was something else that you brought up that I really appreciated in your sermon, that it was okay to bring the question. You're allowed to. I like to say that if you find yourself in a church or a faith where they tell you to stop thinking, you should start leaving.
Yeah, right. Good point. And in our confirmation program, we really try to encourage questions. But it was really interesting in our conversations and leading up to the sermon how many people have been told, really keep your questions to yourself.
You know, one of the things, and I might bring it into a sermon at some point, that always got me was there was a Lutheran, a very powerful man who started off as a Lutheran, and he didn't end that way. And he came up to his pastor and he said, this is a true story, he said he looked at the Time magazine and it had some African child with a distended belly who was starving, right? And it was a whole article, maybe issue or whatever, on the starvation in Africa at that moment in time. And he asked his Lutheran pastor, how could God let this happen, right? Theophany. And the pastor said, well, that's not for you to know, and shut him down, right? With one of these thought-terminating cliches. Well, it is what it is, right? Stop thinking is effectively what a thought-terminating cliche is. And with that, he lost his faith. And really what would have been better would have been for the pastor to either admit that he didn't know, or to give a good answer, or even to say, well, here's what I work off of, and maybe say, well, but there might be more, right? I only have so much understanding. Instead of that child losing his faith. That child, by the way, Steve Jobs.
Wow. Really?
Could you imagine if Steve Jobs had decided to use his acumen for the kingdom of God?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a lost opportunity in terms of, but he found his path.
He did,
And,
and as I look at my iPhone presently, maybe it's for the better. I don't know.
We don't know. We don't know. We can't answer that.
But you had some good illustrations in your sermon. But let's get into some of the doubts, right? So there are different. You brought the Greek today. You did your homework, Pastor.
Oh yeah, I
Adrian.
did. Well, coming up from a question, the different, the language barrier when we communicate, or opportunity really. Someone brought up that in the work culture, how we have different words for things and concepts. That someone was trying to talk about questions, and the word they found for English was doubt.
Yeah.
And so just wanted to explore that a little bit and the different meanings and shades of doubt. In my sermon, I really was thinking of kind of like this vague questioning, uncertainty.
Like when Normal Thomas comes in.
That's right. Yeah, let's call him Normal Thomas. Regular Thomas, Normal Thomas.
Regular Thomas. Yeah, right, yeah.
Yeah. So that guy, he's like, I need to see. I'm doubting what you're telling me. And so, looking at other words, and maybe you can speak to the Hebrew, but one of them is hesitation. So you're not wading into the waters. You're like reserved. You're
Okay,
like,
a
I don't know
reservation.
about this theology. I don't know about this
Yeah.
idea. Maybe that's at the beginning of when you're starting to accept something or not accept
Yeah,
something.
I feel that way whenever I see Jell-O that has things floating in it.
That's a good
I
policy
have
to
a
have.
reservation. I don't know about that
I'm
Jell-O.
not sure. Why is that up there?
Why did we put ham in the orange Jell-O?
Good call. That's one good Greek application of that word.
Yeah. Okay. What else we got?
And then there's another. The same one can also be you're divided. Now this
Divided,
one's
like the mind,
interesting.
the person.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is interesting because how this would play out in one's faith journey. That maybe you want to trust God, or depending on how you define like our fleshly nature, you can't. But
Right, yeah.
but like part of you wants to. Maybe that's the Holy
Yeah.
Spirit. That it's like you
Yeah.
really want to, but there's something that's pulling you back, and it could be some hurt or experience, or you've gotten like burned by disappointment before, or
Yeah, we've all been there.
yeah. So what are your thoughts about the division part? of
Oh, I
doubt?
love that. I think that's absolutely right. Doubt is in I don't know which way to go. But neither of those are kind of the doubt that you had started this with, right? Which is the, well, maybe it is kind of a questioning doubt. But I've always understood it as a refutation, right? So to have doubt is to say no. Right, and this gets at the kind of, again, more philosophy, a kind of a skeptics. Yeah, it won't be until proven otherwise, right? That's always been whenever I hear doubt linguistically, it is, no, that's not a thing until you can prove to me whatever, that it is, or,
okay.
right? So, I don't know, I'm trying to think of one. Oh, remember, the Volkswagen gets, 32 miles to the gallon, and we all just kind of went, yeah, and then Volkswagen later came out and said, well, we cheated.
Okay.
Right? So we didn't have a skepticism. There was no doubting. We didn't doubt them.
Nothing like prove it.
Right. We said, oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's when I think of doubt, right? Which is there a God? Well, no, but until you can prove it.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
That's a modern mindset, but that's where my mind goes. I love the idea of being of two minds, right? Because that's kind of an open-mindedness. Yes and no.
Yeah, you're open to more than one perspective, at least.
Yeah.
Mary, we looked at Luke chapter 1, and when the angel Gabriel comes to Mary, and we looked at, hers was a question. She wasn't doubting. Well, she asked the angel, how can this be? This is really impossible for me. So how can this happen? Although I think what we know from Mary is that she was a very faithful person, a faithful young
I
girl.
don't
She
think
knew the
anyone's
scriptures.
Gonna fight us
yeah.
on that one.
Yeah, so she had all this to work with and to work on, but it was such an outlandish message that I think she was trying to grapple with its enormity and its possibility, and you can't help but she does accept, but you can't help not to wonder,
It's
question.
ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
If I came up to you, Pastor Adrian, and I said, you are the new Queen of England.
Woohoo!
You'd be like, well, that's nice, but that's not
yeah,
real.
like, thanks, Pastor Ryan.
Yeah,
thanks,
stop pulling my
but-
leg, get back to work. What wouldn't come across your mind is, oh, maybe. I doubt. I mean,
Yeah, and I buy a plane ticket to London and just hope it works out.
right. So when somebody comes up, when the angel Gabriel comes up to Mary and says, "Hey, you're gonna birth God," yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like the Queen of England's looking more reasonable now.
Yeah. So yeah, while it was a lot to take in, which I try to make the point that, when we doubt, it also shows us that we take God seriously, our faith seriously. An angel being in front of you would, you'd have to check your senses. Like, am I hallucinating? Am I,
Oh, yeah.
I don't think we don't
I got
have
those
that process.
mushrooms from McDonald's. They couldn't have been weird, right?
That's right. I don't
Those
have a headache. I don't
mushrooms
have a fever.
I don't think McDonald's
I'm
even
good.
has mushrooms.
I don't think they do.
No, probably for good reason, right? Their mushrooms would go weird. Like, I don't know about those mushrooms, McDonald's. What are you putting them on my hamburger for?
That's right. Leave those off.
Okay, yeah, go on. No, I'm sorry. Just acting silly now.
So when we do doubt, we're appreciating God and God's power. And so, if she'd be like, yeah, sure, whatever, it almost would have been dismissive.
It would have been.
And you
Yeah,
can't
that's
be
exactly.
dismissive.
Except when you see an angel, and you said this in your sermon too, and I love this fact. They all say, "Do not be afraid," and you're like, "Too late! I've already peed my pants." You should have started with that.
That's right. It happens every time.
If that being is talking to me, maybe I'm gonna open my mind a little bit, right? I'm gonna say, "Hey, okay."
That's right. Yeah. Shakes you up just enough. But they all start out that way, I believe. So yeah, there's something to that.
Oh, they do. I was doing my sermon this morning, and the fear is real. Yeah. And I love that and this is, I think, a good place to wrap up. That you bring in that we're being doubtful can be fearful, right? Because we don't like to doubt. We like to be sure. But there we are. That is a very reasonable place to find ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right.
Are you preoccupied somehow?
No, I hear some Dream On in the background.
You can't hear it. Adrian's flipping out because her phone's going off. I fear that you're not with us right now. But never you doubt. Whoever's on the line
The
will leave a
greatest
message.
fear just happened to me right now. My phone going
Your
off in the
phone-
middle of something.
Oh, and there it is. Okay,
yeah.
so but don't let the phone go. Let the human moment be. Because I want to land on this plot. I want to land here. This is a really cool place that you hit on your sermon. I think it's worth reiterating, right? That we don't have to fear doubt. We don't have to fear hide those questions. It gets to this idea that when you have those questions, they actually bring God into light.
Yeah, and I think really to bring home our questions are welcomed by God, and when we can frame it in a way that we want to love and grow an understanding of God, I think God meets us there.
That's it. Yeah, and if you're looking for God, then you've gone the right direction.
Yeah, beautiful.
All right, so we will see you next week as we continue our sermon series on fear with fear of the unknown.
What's it going to be about?
I don't know.
Okay.
See you next week.
See ya.